Welcome to the Live Compelled podcast. This is Nate Ellerton. I am the lead pastor at Compelled Church, and for the last several podcasts, we have been doing stories where I am interviewing people of their, not only their salvation story, but what God is doing in their life now. And I am honored and privileged to have a legend with us today. We have Missionary Paul Clark, who has been a missionary in Germany for 44 years as a church planner. Before that, he was a church planner here in Michigan. He is a husband, a papa, a pastor, a father to Mike and Stephanie, and a mentor to Nate Ellerton. So, Paul, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, it's great to be with you, Nate.
We were out late last night, so we're kind of groggy. We're not used to staying up past 11.
That's true, but it was great. It was fun.
Yeah, we were in Brighton, and our great friend Brad Trask had Paul there. We had a great prayer meeting. Paul got to share, and they went out for some incredible Italian food.
Yeah, Nate really enjoyed his lasagna. I couldn't believe it. I thought he was just going to eat half of it, but he ate it all.
It did. It was 3-pounder. I'm no quitter, Paul.
Okay.
I'm no quitter. I'm going to keep at
and
that.
I just had a minestrone soup. I just, wasn't
felt
that
bad
hungry.
for you.
Yeah.
I was pounding the lasagna and the bread. It was carbolicious. But we've been doing a series of stories, and I've been doing some interviews, and Paul is in the country here for a few weeks, and I get the privilege of hanging out with him. And so I said, man, we're going to do a podcast because you have been a church planner in Germany, in Europe, for 44 years. Not only is church planning hard in America, it is Europe. Paul, tell us, what is it like to plant a church in Germany?
Well, it's very challenging because we're in a post-Christian culture, and one of the problems we have in our society there, even though like 50% of the Germans belong nominally to a Catholic or let's say the Protestant state church, they kind of think anything else is just a cult. So right off the top, if you say, of course we say in German, we're a free evangelical church, it's like, that's weird, like that's like Scientology. So that makes things difficult when you want to plant a church.
So you just spoke to our staff and you said something that caught my attention, that there are less born-again Christians in Germany than
in Egypt. Yeah,
in Egypt,
for example, right?
Unbelievable.
It's hard to believe, but we estimate maybe less than 2% are born-again believers in Germany, but like there's certain places like where you were, Nate, with us back many years ago in the Saar region on the French border is probably less than 1% or 0.5%. So. That's why the Assemblies of God is involved in sending missionaries to plant churches. But God has given us grace. It's been, it's been slow going, but we have planted churches.
I remember my first internship, my only internship with Pastor O in Adrian, and I got to run the youth group because he had taken a team to Germany. And of course, that inspired me. And from there, I went to Linton, took a couple teams to Jamaica. But I took a team to Northville. We went to Saarbrücken and Trier and St. Wendel in 1995. That was a tough trip. It wasn't like Jamaica.
It was a lot of fun with you guys, but you got a chance to sense what we all sense. Like I say in Europe, success is measured in inches rather than feet.
Well, in Jamaica, we were the talk of the town. They took us to the schools. They crowded the building. We had standing room only.
Yeah.
It was incredible. Germany, not so much. I remember being in St. Wendel, and a guy had asked a couple of my team. I might have told you this story, but like, who's in charge here? And of course, my kids pointed to me instead of you. He came up to me and basically in English told me I was a terrible leader. I've wasted all of this money and time because they do not need Jesus. They have evolved past that. And that's what you said about being post-Christian.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, that's the challenge that we have to deal with all the time.
Yet, how many churches have you and your wife planted in Germany?
Well, my wife and I, we've had, being lead pastors of probably about 6 churches in Germany, and then, of course, 1 in Austria, and now we're trying to plant a church in Liechtenstein. And then, of course, I've been involved with coaching a lot of different church planning projects, even organizing church planning projects. So it's been a journey.
Yeah. I love when I was there in 95 and you and I got to hang out, and I told you that maybe I'm praying about that. You really encouraged me to plant a church.
Yeah, I really did. I'd love that because I can tell when guys are a little bit open, and I knew you were looking for transition. I mean, I could just see God was leading, and I just try to instill in church planners or young people that they go and plant churches, and hey, you did it.
Well, we did it in 1996. We did it with the help of the Michigan District. We did it with the mothering and blessing of Pastor O and Northville Christian Assembly. And man, we've been here 29 years. So
It's
thanks.
hard to believe.
Thanks for encouraging us.
Yeah, and I was here right at the beginning, and I was just thrilled to hear about that. And of course, when I come back every few years, it's just great to see what's going on here. Meeting with your staff, very impressed. I have to say that. I don't want to pat you in the back too much, Nate, but you got some quality people here working with you.
Oh man, I've been blessed, but I'll take all the encouragement I need. That's for sure. So before you went to Germany and planted a church, you planted a church right here in Michigan.
Right.
Talk about that.
I went to Freeland, Michigan. I asked your staff, has anybody ever been to Freeland, Michigan? No. I thought anybody in Freeland, Michigan has been there. I was up
at the great church of Christian Celebration Center with Pastor
Midland.
Keith Grable a couple of weeks ago. So I was close.
You were close, yeah. Actually, Freeland is right between Saginaw, Bay City, and Midland. It's very strategic, and that's where the airport is for those three locations. Of course, you got Midland. That's the world headquarters of Dow Chemical, and then General Motors and Saginaw. I guess they're still there. So, we went there to this bedroom community and planted a church many years ago. And the church is still going today. That's what's really exciting. And they're still reaching people for Jesus.
And they honored you, and you were there just recently.
Right. Sunday night, they had a special get-together. They had a big potluck, lots of food. And there were some people there who originally were in the church in the beginning. And they really did honor me. I mean, even one of the ladies stood up who's probably only been there the last 10 years or so. He said, Pastor Paul, we're so glad that you came to Freeland because this church has been such an incredible blessing that you were willing to take that step and come here. And see, that's what I love about church planning, Frank, Nate, is that you just hear these kind of reports later after the fact. And of course, we hear this all the time in Germany. I hear about somebody matter of fact, just a couple months ago, I heard about a guy, and I was talking to him in Liechtenstein, and he said, yeah, Paul, I got saved through the Saarbrücken church. I said, what? That's one of the first church plants I had, but he got saved at that church about, 12 years after I left. So that's why I really believe in church planning. And I'll just say a little saying about church planning that I heard many years ago.
Yeah, I love that.
If you want to plant something that lasts just a season, plant flowers. If you want something to last for a lifetime or two, plant a tree. But if you want something to last that has eternal value, plant a church.
Yes. So we have some young people I know that listen to this podcast, and pray about church planting, man. It has probably been the hardest, most rewarding way to spend a life. I couldn't imagine my life without Compelled Church.
And I'd like to say also, Nate, it's not just the church planter who heads the church plant, but there's those people, and you experienced that too, who said, hey, I'm going to be with you. So maybe you don't feel like you're going to be a pastor, but you can be a part of a church plant. You can kind of help and do children or whatever needs to be done. And that's just as important as a church planter themselves.
Well, I love what you said to Matt in our staff meeting, Matt Reinhardt, who is, I know we have an established campus, but him and Mandy are going off with an autonomous church. It is going to be an Ohio Ministry Network church. And the way you just encouraging him, because he is a church planter now. He's going to be bivocational. He's going to be meeting in a school. He's going for it. They have great faith.
Yeah, that was really exciting. I mean, I just think a lot's going to happen there. Even though they're going to be in the school for a while, I'm not sure how long, but that's not the end of the story. They're going to find a location where they can, like, great things will happen. But I really believe in the school, great things are going to happen.
Yeah, I think that's going to be, it's going to stir up the community a little more, and they have a great core team. Man, dedicated. Curtis Klotz, I didn't tell you this, Paul, but he has been there as the worship leader since we started.
Oh, that's
faithful
incredible.
13 years ago, and I could probably count on one hand the number of weekends he's missed.
That's incredible.
And then a guy there is named Brendan, and Danielle are doing the youth, and he was a little baby. His grandpa, who helped us, one of our first families, plant this church and get this addition going, his grandpa used to bring him as a child in diapers to Royal Rangers, and he's leading the youth out there.
Yeah, that's the thing that's so exciting about the kind of ministry you've been involved to, staying in an area so long that you get to see all this fruit, and I'm just rejoicing with you, Nate. I really am.
He just finished his degree with North Point, the one out east, and has applied for credentials, and
that's incredible.
It's just so many great things. Matt and Mandy are sure going to do great things in church planting, that's for sure. But not only have I got to, Wendy and I got to be with you and your wife. Your kids are incredible. The Mike and Stephanie go way back with us. What a great family you have.
Yeah, they always enjoyed coming the first time they were teenagers, and we just sent them to you guys for a few weeks in the summer, during summer break from school, and just to get back to the States, because they both grew up in Germany. So it was always great that they could have the experience with you and Wendy. That was incredible.
Yeah, I know. Stephanie loved Abby when she was a little girl. That was pretty cool. And I think all the girls in the youth group loved Mike.
Yeah.
He was a big hit.
Yeah.
Some cool German guy.
Yeah, European, European flair. Yeah, that's it.
Right. Well, Wendy and I got to be with you a few years ago, and we got to do something different than run a youth team or a name team, we used to call them. We really got to do what you do, and that is encourage some pastors. And man, I know that was a lot of work for you to set up, but what an incredible time it was. I mean, we weren't just in Germany; we were in Austria.
Yeah,
we were in Switzerland.
Right.
Like, that was an incredible little. I know it wasn't a tour, but
that's just our area where we are at now. In Lindau, even back then, we're just so right, only 3 miles from the Austrian border, 15 miles from the the Swiss border. So it was pretty practical, just being so close to those different countries.
Yeah, and how you got to minister to Wendy's cousin and her husband.
I forgot about that, actually.
That was just so incredible.
I forgot all about that.
I changed my whole talk, that last talk, and
I forgot about that. Wow.
He passed away just shortly after that with cancer. Maybe it was a couple years after that, actually. Yeah. But man, that was a God-ordained thing. That was cool. But I got to see you in a different light rather than running my AIM team or giving a missions talk.
Right. Yeah.
You were being the mentor, and I realized how much influence you have in church planning in Germany and Switzerland and Austria. Yeah. Pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's a real joy. I just, now I'm part of the older generation, but I just enjoy working with the younger church planters. It's just a real blessing, and it's still going on. As a matter of fact, the German Assemblies of God, which we call the BFP in Germany, it's like we plant more churches than anybody. But that's the Assemblies of God generally worldwide. We're planting churches. That's like priority number one. Even for our missionaries in Europe, we're just planting churches. Like, we just had a gathering that's every 3 years where AG missionaries get together for Europe, and I led a breakout session on church planting. And so I started this session talking about my situation. Then we had somebody who was planting a church in Scotland. Actually, Dave was originally from New Jersey. And then we had Mark Mitkinski. I think your church might even support him. Originally from Michigan, he's planting a church in Malaga. And then we had the Van Bruggens. Again, they're from New Jersey, and they're planting a church in Belgium. It's just like really cool, and everyone sharing their experience, even though every country is a little bit different. But man, we're still doing it, planting churches. Even though we don't see the results, we don't see mega churches, but individuals are coming to know Jesus, and that's the key.
Well, the 99, Jesus goes after the one, right? I mean, the reason God called us to plant churches was for people to know Christ.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Did you say Mark McKinstry?
McKinsey, yeah. Do you know him, Mark?
Yeah, he interned with me in Northville.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah,
we support Mark.
Yeah, right. And then he went. And then he was like missions pastor for many years in a church near Milwaukee, I think, in Oak Brook for many years. And he actually was on a missions team when that's really going back when the Berlin Wall came down. So Midland, the church there, sent us a team right after the wall came down, or when the communism fell. And so we went to Berlin, and it was really cool with Mark and his team. So that was great.
our hearers won't know, those that are listening won't know this part about you, but you've planted that many churches. You mentored dozens and dozens of people. You have incredible influence in Germany, Austria, and you are legally blind.
Yeah. Should I talk to you about that story? I'll tell you a little bit about that.
Do that.
And I've been sharing that in a lot of churches recently. But, I was born partially sighted and lived in Grand Haven, Michigan. And back in the day, I was bullied because I was different, because that meant for me to read, I had to put the book right to my nose. I couldn't really see the blackboard. Back in those days, we didn't have whiteboards, just had to kind of listen a lot. Sometimes teachers would write things down for me, but I'd get beat up on just because I was different. And just recently, I shared this, that I was in a church where I shared my testimony. This lady was like almost 60. She had to deal with epilepsy, had epilepsy attacks as a child in Germany. She said the day after she had an attack, the kids just beat her up. So,
oh my goodness,
it's just horrible kind of things. And at the age of 12, get this, I had an eye operation on my right eye, and it was actually pretty successful. And the plan was then after that to operate on the other eye. But then shortly after that operation, in the 7th grade, somebody took my book. Between classes, I went to grab my book, take it back. Somebody tripped me, and I fell over and caught my freshly operated eye in that book. And so I lost my sight. My parents took me to the University of Michigan Eye Clinic, but there was nothing they could do.
That story just punches me in the gut every time I hear it.
Every time I share that, people would go, it is really horrible, but, somehow God has given me grace. As a teenager, I shared that last night, and you heard that story about, in Michigan, man, when you're 16, back in the day, you get your driver's license. That's like a male macho kind of thing. Well, I didn't have any driver's license. I still remember the first time I asked a girl to go out on a date, and she had to come and pick me up in front of my dorm room. My dorm. I'm thinking that's, all these, I just felt so embarrassed, But I had to work through that, and God gave me grace. And, of course, I was able to, do my education and all that. But, there were some times it was a little bit tough on me,
Yeah, man.
But my wife, she's kind of funny. She sometimes says things to me like, well, Paul, it's good you don't see everything. Okay, yeah. And then even though I don't see that well, and she's driving, she's my chauffeur. My wife is German. And, in Germany, we have the Autobahn, which is like the expressway. There are parts where you can drive as fast as you want. No speed limit. Sometimes I think that's the way it is here in Michigan on 96 or 94. But,
Almost.
But I'll say something about how she's tailgates, and she'll say, Paul, don't tell me how I should drive. I don't tell you what you should preach.
Yeah, I can hear her saying that.
Yeah, but I did share too last night, and it's really true. I think the scripture that's really helped me is when the Apostle Paul talks about his thorn in the flesh, and we don't really know what it was, but it was not pleasant. It's like being legally blind. It's not pleasant. But the Lord spoke to him in these words, and these are the words that have encouraged me so many years, and I try to encourage everyone with these words, is my grace is sufficient. My power is perfected in weakness. That's what the Lord says to everyone. Even your listeners right now, there's some people listening that they've got limitations. Maybe it's emotional. I don't know. It could be, something that's happened in a marriage, or they just don't like how their nose is. It's too big or whatever. But, God loves us all, and he wants to use us, and we should never, ever feel like God can't use us. But, hey, he does. I'm just totally amazed, actually, looking back over all these years.
Well, I've been watching you for 35 years, and it hasn't limited you much. Your capacity and what you've been able to accomplish with God's help, of course, is pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's really a miracle too, Nate, and I didn't share this last night in Brighton, but like I sit on a computer about 6 hours a day with one bad eye, and I don't even have enlargement software, and it doesn't affect that one eye. It's crazy because I spend a lot of time, writing, doing my newsletter for pastors, and it's just.
You do a lot of mentoring and coaching online too.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's God's grace.
Yeah,
it's just grace.
That's just so incredible. And so you're a graduate of Hope College, right?
Well, not really. I went to Hope just for 2.5 years, and the story is there's this missionary, that he knew. I had a Christian band at that time, And Teen Challenge was getting started back in the Jesus People Time movement, even in Europe, and they needed young guys to do evangelism. And this missionary kept writing me letters. I don't know if you know what a letter is, but it's something you get in the mail. Yeah. And he kept writing me, and I said, I'm not really interested. But by the third letter, I said, okay, Howard, I'll make a 1-year commitment. So I took a break from Hope College, thinking just for 1 year. I was actually pre-law. And, and going to Germany, working with Teen Challenge. Instead of that 1 year, I was 4.5 years. But shortly after I was there, I really sensed I was called to ministry, that I knew I would not be a lawyer. I just knew something else was going to happen, even though I didn't know exactly, but I knew it was going to be ministry. So then we came back to Michigan. And while I was planning the church in Freeland, this is crazy when I think about it, all the things, that we're planning a church. I finished my degree in sociology at Saginaw Valley, my BA, and then my MA at Central Michigan in sociology. My thesis was the sociology of religion. That was kind of interesting. And, that's how I finished my degree,
Wow. Pretty amazing. So tell us, of course, Michael and Stephanie, you recently handed off one of your churches, to Michael.
Right.
And he's one of the great missionary too, has been all around the world and with Convoy. How's that going for him?
I think it's really challenging. We'd like to see a lot more growth, to be quite frankly, but we're in this post-Christian era. We're in Austria, which is in a lot of ways more challenging than Germany. You think Germany's challenging, Austria's more challenging. But we turned the church over to him right before COVID. And immediately before COVID. So when we turned it over to him, then right away they had all the restrictions in Europe, which was a lot of restrictions about meeting. And so he had to kind of come up with doing live stream and all that kind of thing, which he did a great job with. And still reaching people. We just want to see more happen. That's what we want to see more happen. I don't think and this is really what we're praying about. I think it's been about 1.5 years since we baptized our last believer in Bregenz. That's just, but that's when you talk to people in European churches, that's not uncommon. We're just believing that. Actually, recently we've had some new people come into the Bregenz church, so I'm thinking something's going to happen there as Mike disciples them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a blessing to be there a few years ago and to be able to share in the morning. Man, there's just a sweet sense of the Holy Spirit, and I don't know if it's because of the climate there, but it seems like the believers in Germany are very, very sweet.
Yeah, it's just sweet, but they're committed. I mean, you got to be committed, because like if your neighbor sees you going to a church like ours, what, you going to this cult place? What's, it's just, so you got to take a stand here. It's in Europe. I mean, it's, so then people, when they get together, they are, as you would say, sweet, but they're enthralled, just, having fellowship and being a part of what God's doing.
Yeah. And when we were in St. Wendel, I still remember how grateful they were to serve us lunch. And so sweet.
They've always been that way. That church, I don't know, there's certain churches just love to serve and serve food. I mean, you'll gain weight there. That's the only problem. Every time I go to St. Wendel, they put on a spread. It's just the way it is. Yeah,
our teammate ate so good that day. But church planning. And so in America, we're seeing more campuses. We're seeing more churches, kind of do the campus model. There's also hybrids of that. But I'm seeing I've gotten more interest with rolling our campus off into a church plant than when it was a campus from other pastors. They just very interested in that. And like you said, it's the old model, which is the most successful model.
Yeah, mother-daughter principle.
Right.
That's we don't use that term so
explain
much.
Explain what that is.
Well, it's basically and this is what we've done in Europe for many years. So when the daughter church gets to the mother church gets to a certain strength, you just start a daughter church. Like, for example, in Saarbrücken, we had people to live in St. Wendel. So, then we get that nucleus together and start holding meetings in St. Wendel. And that becomes the daughter church. And, of course, the goal is that these daughter churches would become self-reliant, self-sufficient. That's kind of a principle, though, that we do in missiology and the Assemblies of God for years, even in Latin America, where it really started. We start things as missionaries. The mother church initiates it, but that at some point that church, that daughter church, well, like our kids, like we raise kids, right?
Right.
At some point they go to college, and some point they're on their own, and some point we don't help them financially anymore, generally
Right.
speaking. But
Right.
sometimes that takes a little bit longer than we want to.
Yeah.
But they're
Sure.
still our kids, so we help them out.
Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah, so that's what we're doing. I know you've seen that happen, and that's a successful thing. So people can find Christ and walk with the Lord. And so, as one of our compelled missionaries for many years, how can we continue to pray for Germany, Austria, and Switzerland?
Yeah, well, I think prayer really is important. And then when we send out these newsletters, those prayer requests, just take them very seriously. I think my last newsletter I sent to you, like there's 4 church plants that are looking for buildings. I mean, I was talking to Matt today, but that's like,
Right.
They need buildings, all 4 of these church plants. That was one of the requests. And then of course for Liechtenstein, we're just it's a very challenging country, this small country of 40,000 people, very traditionally Catholic, and we have not been able to establish a strong core group there. We've done a lot of evangelism, a lot of seed planting, and that's great. But at some point you want to harvest. So I'd say just keep praying for us in those areas. And then from time to time, there are special projects that come up, and you guys have helped us too. And when we need maybe some funds for a particular thing, then Compelled has helped. And just see how God, who knows, maybe someday you guys will send us a team again, or maybe you'll come again.
Yeah.
We've talked about that. Matter of fact,
I
did try to get you to come one time, but didn't work out time-wise.
Yeah.
And so it's always these issues
Sure.
when it works out. But I was thinking maybe 2026 for sure.
That'd be fun.
We can maybe work something out. Maybe even bring Brad Trask along. He brought it up. Maybe we could do some team teaching
That
or
would
do
be
something.
awesome.
I know Brad needs to get over there too.
Yeah. Well, Paul, you've been a great friend to me and a mentor. And in some of the toughest times of my pastoring, I'd always get a call or a text like, let's talk. And you've always been an encouragement.
Yeah, it's been.
And I know I'm not the only guy in your life you're doing
Right.
that to. And so thank you.
Well, Nate, we've had a very special relationship. I'd say that probably from all my stateside supporting churches, probably you are the pastor that I do. Just worked out that we have this very close relationship, and it's been encouraging for me too. I mean, you've been an encouragement to me, and just it's like for a missionary, you have to stay in touch with the homeland. I'm from Michigan, so we can just talk about things because we go back now 35 years.
Yeah,
so,
we got a little history.
and we both have been doing the same thing, and our families know each other. We love each other, and that's just a God thing. We just have to receive that, and I'm very thrilled about that.
Yeah, me too. Well, thanks for being on our podcast. And so this has been Nate Ellerton interviewing Paul Clark, missionary to Germany, on the Live Compelled podcast. If you've enjoyed the podcast, why don't you share it with somebody? Why don't you share it with somebody who might be praying about God's will for their life? Maybe God wants them to be a church planner or a missionary. Share it. Make sure you follow and subscribe, and make sure you continue to live compelled by Christ's love.